If you're looking to own Arizona real estate, or if you're moving within this beautiful state, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Iconic Estates, a podcast presented by Russ Lyon, Sotheby's International Realty, for people who want to live in luxury in the pristine desert. I'm your host, Renee Dee, and I will be with you every month for the podcast. On the podcast today, I've got Gary Freese, founder of GS Freese Construction, who will talk to us about the home building process and the importance of building a team that you can trust. Alexandra Baum, Director of Marketing at Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty, shares her passion and how it shines through in everything she does, from brilliant marketing strategies to support the Russ Lyon Sotheby's brand and its advisors. And then we talk to Barry Van Patten II, a global real estate advisor who will talk to us about living up north in Scottsdale, in the private golf communities, and all the benefits that you'll find there. So let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Gary. It's always fun to have my clients and my really great friends here on the podcast for Russ Lyon. I'm excited to chat with you about home building today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. So I think a lot of people know that I really have a lot of trust in your advice when it comes to building a custom home, and you certainly have incredible longevity in the Valley. So I want to talk a little bit, from a real estate perspective about the concept of building a house. But just first, can you remind my viewers, you've been building for a long time.
Yes, we've been building for longer than I can remember. 23 years here in the Valley, we've been building custom homes.
And I remember you giving me a big number of the number of homes that you have built and renovated just in Silverleaf alone.
It's over 100.
That is amazing. That is so many houses in just one community.
Yeah, it's been really the anchor of a big piece of our business since the very, very beginning. And it's been really fun to be involved with DC Ranch and Silverleaf, and, living there, belonging to the club, having our family around there. Yeah. It's a really nice integration for us.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that really, I think, brings forth a lot of trust and credibility. So what I want to talk about today is from a perspective of people who are moving to Arizona from around the United States, or people that live here. There's not a lot of land left, but people are still finding land, and they're buying it, with the hopes of building a beautiful custom home on that land. So as far as advice goes, like when someone's looking at a piece of land to build a custom home, what would you tell your favorite clients?
I think the first thing that I would tell them is to be focused on having a good team and to understand what they do know and what they don't know. We all have our specialties in doing things, and it's always best to lean on other people for, their expertise. And I think oftentimes we have people will contact us and ask us to look at a piece of land, and our perspective in looking at that piece of land is far different than most homeowners. Most people are standing there and looking out or looking at something. We're looking at potential wash areas that cross, water flow, different building impediments, and looking where other people might be building around them.
Yeah.
And all sorts of different perspectives. So we have, in fact, a number of times talked people out of buying lots based upon our perspective and providing them with, our experience. And I think an architect can provide the same thing for them, because they have a different lens that they're looking through. So I do think that it's important to network some of those relationships through your realtor, and be able to, make sure that you understand, all of the challenges that could potentially, relate to a lot that you're purchasing before you purchase it.
Yep. So if you're standing on it and you're admiring the view and you think this is the perfect place, go a step further and do a little bit of due diligence on this piece of land. So there is a term that we use in Arizona a lot, and it's not, I'm sure it happens in other places in the United States also where you build up in the Northwest, but like a hard dig. So you find this great piece of land and you think, okay, a house costs X per square foot at, whatever to build, but you have to look at site prep. So is that something you can lean on your builder to give you kind of an idea, hey, we're going to spend an extra this much just to prep the land before we even start your house?
Yeah, great point. It happens all the time. There are certain parts of the Valley where we know that our propensity for a hard dig is much larger than it is in others. We never truly know what's going to happen, but we can look at a lot based upon its location, based upon its grade. And, if we're dealing with a hillside lot We know that we're going to have to be cutting into the side of the mountain. Generally speaking, people want a balanced cut fill architecturally, and we know that there's very likely going to be some hard dig. And that's just as a more expensive proposition. It's more time. It's a different piece of equipment for the excavator. You've got to haul off rock versus moving dirt around.
Yeah.
And it's something that's difficult to pinpoint, but we can absolutely let them know. The other thing to your point is, if you're on a hillside, it's not just the hard dig, but it's the retention.
Oh, yeah.
So whether you have to be able to retain the back of the house against the mountain that you're cutting into. So your site prep, if you will, including your retaining walls and your excavation, can be very, very significant on some of these big houses.
So that may be like the budget buster right there.
Without question.
Yeah, okay.
We've have some houses where just the site prep, getting to a slab is, $3 to $4 million easily. And that, if someone's not aware of that ahead of time, most people aren't thinking that number is going to be that big.
Right. Yep. Especially if you're coming in like from Chicago or places like that, where it seems like we're always building on flat land. So now, we found this lot that we love. We've called you. You've looked at it. You've given us some perspective around, hey, there might be a hard dig. Let's examine all these other factors that are around. What other due diligence are you looking for? You'd mentioned about neighbors, but are there things with, power lines? I mean, what other kinds of things are you scoping out that maybe somebody like me wouldn't be looking at on a piece of land?
Well, there could be easements that prevent you from doing something. There could be HOA requirements or CC&Rs that prevent you, that are more restrictive than city setbacks in some cases. There might be height restrictions. There's a host of things that could be. Power lines certainly could be. The case, most are underground at this point.
Yeah.
But it is, that's something that you would be looking at. But it's really all of that combined. And before someone buys that lot, in addition to the potential objections, it's important for them to understand what it's likely going to cost to build their home. I think we've had numerous people over the years that they go off and buy their own lot, and then they go hire an architect, and then they maybe want to put something out to bid, and then they've invested now a lot of money and over a year's worth of time into their plans, only to find out that it's 50 or 60% more than they intended to spend. And then their whole deal explodes, and they're disappointed. They're disappointed in the home building process.
Right.
They're disappointed in themselves. They're disappointed in everyone. So we can't always have a crystal ball, but there are a lot of us that do this for a living.
Yeah.
And while we can't pinpoint something always based upon someone's specific selections and things that they want in their house, but we can give them a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think if you have the ability to talk to a number of different people, or at least a few different people, you might get a range of numbers that are, fairly close together that gives you some comfortability in what it's going to cost to build your home.
Yep.
I think that's a critical piece, and where we see people make mistakes.
Yep. And I feel like that would not be a mistake I'd make, because I've been writing about this home building process for 3 decades, as long as you've been building, or even longer than you've been building. But it's interesting because the romance of building a custom home and finding a piece of land and falling in love with it is not attached to, if people are doing it for the first time. There's a lot of kind of like buyer beware, and go into it eyes wide open. Okay, so let's assume we found a piece of land. You've kind of blessed the piece of land from a standpoint of, hey, we could probably build what you want. Here's probably what it's going to be. Let's say the couple is happy with that number. What happens next? So once you've kind of said, hey, I think this could be a really great project, then will you start pulling together that team, advising on an architect and a designer and things like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. Getting that team set first with people that you trust, that you're confident can complete your job, and that you're comfortable communicating with, is the most important step that you're going to take.
So many interesting things that you said in that. One of them, I was talking to an architect in town, and there was a couple that came to this particular architect and said, hey, listen, this is what our budget is. So the architect said, okay, well, when we design this part, of the big, the doors that split open, we're going to have to go in this direction. And they said, yeah, that's what our budget is. Well, then once they were already under construction and all that had been put into place and there was really no turning back on this particular decision, later the couple then said, oh, why don't we do it this way? We have the money for that. Well, that would have been great to know at the beginning, because then you would have gotten that. And so the transparency is really important on both sides. So I think your point about finding somebody you trust, I mean, like, I know how you work, and you're the guy who's going to be very transparent with the numbers, an open book, and people get to see that. They know, I'm sure all your clients know this at the end of the process, who you are, but you really hope that they know who you are at the beginning of the process so that they can, reveal that same level of transparency. Okay, Gary, here's where we really are. Because then when everybody can get there, you can get the best end product. So very interesting. The other thing is that you said about a lifelong relationship. This is something I always think about, and I have friends who've gone through this. You said, when you're the builder, you're going to take care of this house for a very, very long time. So this is a reason why you want to select a builder who's going to be around for a very long time.
100%. I think, I mean, not just us, but going back to the top builders here in the Valley, their reputations and our reputation is based upon experience. It's based upon word of mouth. And it's, as big as the city has grown, it's still a small town.
Yeah.
And we all take care of homes forever. Depending what it is, we know the people. And when they call, there's not generally an issue of, well, that's not under warranty per se. It's just a matter of how do we get it fixed. And if it's something that we, had a hand in, whether it be a paint issue or a piece of glass in a window, then we're far better off just taking care of those things for people.
Really reassuring. So now we've gone through the process. We've put together our team. So that's awesome. And, one of the things I think people don't always realize is an interior designer is not just the person who's selecting the sofa and the rug. They are assisting the architect with the interior elevations and some of those cool little details that make your house feel more custom. So you're going to not just have 4 white walls, you're going to have textures and things like that. So having a good interior designer really is like that third leg of the stool, which is really important because they add a lot more than just, let's get some furniture at the end of the process. So we want to bring those people in on right away. And then once the team is formed, what is a way to think about time frame and budget? Like, how does that work? How do you kind of nail both of those?
The budgets for the overall project?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first on the interior design part, you're 100% accurate. Sometimes people might consider that to be jewelry or the pretty stuff. They're a very, very integral part of what's going on. And they have a lot of feedback as it relates to space planning and material use, inside to outside, and all sorts of, when you have your best teams put together, we're all basically volleying back and forth with different ideas. And early on in the process, we are generally, if we've, are kind of leading the charge, if you will, we are kind of quarterbacking that process and sitting back a little bit, because while we may have a lot of experience with things and we might be able to impart like some knowledge as it relates to dollars and cents, we don't want to get in the way or hinder the creativity of an architect or an interior designer. So we want to be able to watch these things unfold, and if something comes up, be able to just raise our hand and say, hey, as an FYI, this is a big ticket item, or nod and say that this is really not that complicated. And I think moving forward then, if you have that team, then collectively you're able to talk about it. And oftentimes we've worked together before, over the course of the years. So we talk, the architect's really the driver in many respects. What is their timeline? What's their actual plan timeline for conceptual development, design development, construction drawings? How are their consultant schedules working right now for structural engineering, civil engineering? And when do we realistically think that we're going to get a plan out the door, or plans ready, if you will? And then we'll weave in the interior design component that goes with that, and also the review processes that are necessary. So in many of the communities that we build in here, the HOA or design review process is more stringent in many respects than city permitting approval. So you have to have and they don't necessarily, they're not waiting for your plans.
Right.
So they have set times and you kind of have to meet all of those guidelines and so on and so forth. So you can kind of work through that process based upon experience and getting feedback from everyone. And then also making sure that you have a good understanding of what the homeowner is willing to invest as it relates to time. So if they have busy travel schedules or busy work schedules and aren't very responsive or are less responsive, it's going to take a little bit more time for some of those things to get put through. And back to your point about transparency, this is another great example where if it's going to take 12 to 14 months, we need to tell them that it's going to take 12 to 14 months. It does us no good at the very beginning to tell someone that this is a 6-month process when it's a 12-month process.
Right. And that kind of depends on size and complexity and stuff like that. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think people make? And what do you feel over the years? I mean, I'm sure there's been times when you've said, gosh, that was really good advice. What's some of the mistakes that people make and some of your best advice?
Wow. Good question. I think they almost go hand in hand in some respects. And it goes a little bit back to the team thing. So people will make decisions based upon dollars and cents that are not aligned with what their desires are. And so it could be with who they hire. We can take 3 people and 3 builders and they can give us what they think their prices are and they select the least expensive. I can tell you for a fact that we've lost a lot of business over the years by being honest and transparent. It puts us at the top part of, what people are telling them something is going to cost. And someone else will put out a lower number. They'll end up doing the job, but they'll end up spending essentially what we've already told them. So I think that part of it, and then I think just the relationship aspect of it is really, that's a big mistake that people make. And I think from our standpoint, we are very, very aligned, and more so every year that goes by, which probably just is me getting older in some respects. We can call it experience if you want. But there certainly have been times where, where we have uninvited ourselves from the process because we knew that the connection wasn't right and that we weren't the best fit for that homeowner. And so that's a big mistake. And so someone might say, well, I've heard these people, they're the ones that need to build my house, or this needs to be my architect, or that doesn't, if they don't fit with you, then they're not the right person for your house, because it's a longer term process than that. So I know that's not exactly what your question is, but I, as you know, we're very big on cultural alignment. We feel the same way about our homeowners as we do about our team members, as we do about our subcontractors and vendors. Long-term relationships, we expect a lot out of them, but we like to give it right back. And we want to be fair, and we want to have shared high expectations. We want to treat each other with respect. We want to always do the right thing. Right? Hire the right people and do the right thing. And so we're super proud of what we do, but what's most important is that we're doing it with people that we want to be doing it with and who are aligned with us. And we're better off not earning your business if we're not the right fit for you. And to me, the right thing is to tell you that. And so I think that is probably the relationship part of it is the biggest opportunity and the biggest mistake that people make. This is not, regardless of how you try to look at it, this is not a transaction. This is an experience. And the people that you're sharing it with are critical to its outcome. Now, you can go beyond that as it relates to dollars and cents, and say people could become short-sighted on some of the finishes that they want to put in, or they could spend too much money for the market. I think the interesting thing that we've seen recently is that, there's been a pretty significant amount of wealth building around the country. And I think there's also this notion about work-life balance, and probably COVID impacted that with people spending more times in their home. So it doesn't matter how big of a house or whatever, whoever we're working for, we've never worked for someone who doesn't have a budget.
Yeah.
So we'd love to if you're out there, but it's never happened.
Billionaires have budgets.
I think everyone has a budget.
Yes.
Right? And we find more and more people who are simply making decisions that they believe are going to make them happy. We have clients who will, technically overbuild for a neighborhood. Doesn't matter to them. This is where we want to live.
Yep.
This is eventually going to be my children's problem. It's not my problem today. We want to be happy. Whether it's a remodel, whether it's new construction, we find more and more people making those decisions based upon how they want to live, and slightly less focus on, well, we can't go $1 over this, or whatever the case might be.
Well, and you're also touching on another real estate term, which is resale value. So some people might deny themselves the thing they want because they think, oh, we should just do a beige on beige on beige bathroom because that would really resell. And if you know at the very beginning of the process you're going to live there for a very short amount of time, I guess maybe that's something you should consider. Maybe you shouldn't even go through the process. But what I'm hearing you say is, when you're making an investment like this of your time and your treasure, that you should build a place that you want to live in and that kind of inspires you when you're there.
Well, yeah, I think it's the value of your own time.
Yeah.
And the value of your own happiness. So to your point, you have people that will always talk about resale value who have no intention of reselling their house.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like when the market crashed in 2010 from a real estate standpoint, and people, you had people like, I just lost all this money on my house. Well, you didn't lose anything if you're not selling it.
Right.
And it's on paper. And now look at us. I mean, this market, it's, way beyond what it was. But I think that is an important piece of that puzzle, right? Is like, what's important to you? What's your value? Don't get hung up on resale value if A, it truly doesn't matter, or B, you truly don't intend to sell.
Right.
Now, with that being said, generally it's the opposite. People will come in, this is my dream. This is, we're never going to sell, but we, if things didn't continually sell, we wouldn't be in business.
Right.
So
and that drives real estate.
Resale does matter. I think the awareness is really the ultimate thing. The takeaway from that is being able to understand what really does matter to you. Do you intend to sell this house quickly? In which case you might want to do without something, or you might want to change a selection and not be so bold, even though it might be your dream.
Right.
But if you really intend to be here and raise your family or have grandchildren visit, and it's not something that you're looking to sell, then have some liberty and have some fun and do some things that matter to you that you'll enjoy.
Yeah. Well, and anybody who's building a custom home has worked very hard to get there. And so none of that usually happens very easily. So you're also, it's the whole concept of, you deserve to build something that you can be proud of and that you can really enjoy. What I like most about what you said today is that this is not a transaction. This is an experience. And so it's an experience. I mean, it's an experience, right? There's some people who don't want this experience. They want the experience of moving into a house that's all done and living in a beautiful house, but not going through the process. I mean, it definitely is a process that you're going through and can be a really, really fun process and really educational. Some people get hooked and then they just want to build more houses again and again and again. So I love how you talk about that. Well, I think this is really helpful. Anything else that we want to share, for people who are thinking about building in Arizona today?
There is no better time.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons that if you go back to 2009 and 2010, and anyone that's listening to this will remember that time period when, as a builder at least, very early on in that process, we're faced with, what do I do? And because you went from a lot of business to no business virtually overnight.
Yeah.
My decision was very easy, and it was, I'm going to continue to build, and I'm going to continue to build right here because people will never quit wanting to move to Arizona.
Right.
And that has proven true, and it's going to continue to be true.
Yeah.
And you look at the sophistication of what's going on around the valley and the commercial development and the infrastructure and the lack of land, ongoing lack of land, it's only going to become more expensive. It's only going to become more valuable. We now have a year-round, sophisticated real estate market.
Yeah.
You know, I remember 15 years ago when, you know, at this time of year, when summer came, everyone was gone.
Yeah.
Including many of the realtors, many of the contractors,
Yep.
it just was like things just slowed down.
Yeah.
Driving here today or driving around here in the middle of June, it's
Yeah.
as busy as ever.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great time.
I was just on the highway today and we were saying, gosh, this looks like LA style traffic. So people are here right now. But I think you're right. The value proposition of Arizona is amazing. And you've lived here for a long time, and so have I. And I never knew when I got here that this would be my forever home, but I love it. It's an easy place to live. We do have some hot moments, but we have some of the best experiences ever of outdoor living that you could have anywhere in the world. I mean, it's an exquisite place. So
It's beautiful. I tell you, the other thing, I mean, for me, that's a reminder, and from being a kid to today, is never is there an unattractive sunset.
so true.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
When you go visit other places and
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out the sunset and all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff, and it just goes down.
Yeah.
It's beautiful here every night.
Oh yeah, it's
So,
amazing.
even when it's hot.
No, it's so true. And when you get to look at them, they're all so different and they're all so special. So it's a very special place.
Yeah.
And so is this process of custom home building. So thanks for helping us break that down today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited to have Alexandra Baum here with us, the marketing director for Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. This podcast was your idea. So I'm so glad you're here today.
Yeah, me too. It's been an interesting chance to get to be able to go from just doing a newsletter to expanding it into social media and then now into the podcast to just expand our reach.
It's been really fun. So we started out with the Iconic Estates brand almost 4 years ago, which has been really exciting for me. And I've loved the chance to get to work with you. But this podcast was really your idea. So what was your vision that people would get out of this?
Yeah, so podcasts really kind of started to take off and they caught my interest. It was something I was like, okay, I'm listening to it in the cars. My brother's doing his own podcast. They're listening to it in their cars. You know, everyone's talking about some podcast that they heard some just small clip from. And if we're getting those little sound bites somewhere, not only on social media, but in our normal day conversations, it was a trigger point in my head where I was like, there's got to be something that we're missing in the real estate way. Because if we can get the back end and just those little snippets of what is real estate like, what is the market doing, what is going on in northern Arizona, southern Arizona, and even in the valley, we can capitalize on a whole different way of giving people education, not only on real estate, but also our brand and what's going on just even state-wise with Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty.
Yeah, it's been great. And it's been a great learning curve for me too. And it's been really fun. My favorite part is getting to meet the different advisors. Everybody has a different personality and a different thing that they bring to the table. And I think that adds a lot of special quality to the podcast to get to meet, real estate is a people business. And so it's really fun to get to meet the people behind the brand. I love that part. So how do you select who's going to be on the podcast and what are you hoping people are going to learn from them?
Oh, that's such a great question because there are so many advisors. We have over 900 advisors across the state of Arizona. And how do you pick one and not the other? How does it work here and there? The hardest part about it is not just that they are all extremely qualified, but it's the fact that they all have different backstories. Mm-hmm. Some of them have been professional golfers. Some of them have been on radio. There's these backstories that create these personalities that we don't always get to see behind the scenes that make them really awesome spokespeople, not only for themselves, but the brand, and then also just even visually. So that goes partially into it. And then the nice thing is you and I have spent hours trying to figure out what we're going to talk about, not only in the newsletter, but also in the podcast of those specific topics where everyone also has their own specialties.
Right.
So it's just everybody has their own personality. They have their own likes. They have their own ways that they do their business. And then those specialties just made it a little bit easier for me to kind of narrow that down a little bit more and be like, oh, wow, I know this advisor can speak greatly on new homes being built in the Southeast Valley. Let's get them on there, have that conversation. They might not have been the right person to talk about spanning floor to ceiling windows that are in Desert Mountain because they're in the Southeast Valley. So then we can go and find a different advisor that fits that spot in that need.
Yeah. And we're going to keep doing this. So there's plenty of time to always be matching some great advisors with great topics. It's been really fun. So I've had a great opportunity to work with you and see how you've grown with the company, but also what you bring to the table for marketing. And so for those who don't know what you do, you're the person, you're the Oz behind the curtain, providing all those marketing channels and things like that. And you do so much. So what is a day in the life for Alexandra Baum?
Busy.
Yeah.
I think a day in my life is busy. I've only ever wanted to be in real estate. It was one of those things. I tried to get my real estate license when I was in high school. I was like, this is amazing. And then I was like, oh, but I want to go to college. I want to do this. And so I fell in love with marketing and I was like, cool. How can I tie the two together? Luck be told, I found Russ Lyon, Sotheby's International Realty on LinkedIn, and I submitted my application and I was like, okay, this is going to be the one for me. I got the job offer and I was able to take that opportunity and just grow with the company over the past years. I've officially been with the company for 6 years. I have told people, I'm like, I bleed blue. This is all I know. It's what I care about the most. And so it allowed me to not only grow in what I was able to do as a marketing coordinator when I started, but when I took over as marketing director, it allowed me to also have a totally different view in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So I was able to take the marketing director aspect and marry that with that marketing coordinator role where you have that connection with those advisors. So we have taken it to the opportunity where when I say busy, I mean busy. I can go from a meeting 1 hour to being dived into an entire presentation that we're going to be giving out to everyone else, or something that's going company-wide, something that is just going to be an advertisement that's being seen. But we take everything and we make sure that it has that touch of bespoke. And so that's a huge thing for me, is just that idea of making sure our advisors and our clients and the homes get the attention and the capability that they deserve from us. And so that includes everything from listing it online. Once they put it in the MLS, we take care of a number of triggers that allow it to get syndicated onto the websites to be visually seen across the globe, to marketing materials that are sent directly to our advisors inside of their email, ready to go for different trigger points. And then we take all that same information and we start plugging it into places where it really belongs and can thrive. So that includes our PR, our social media, reaching out to different affiliates of, hey, can you feature this? Can you do that? There's a lot of communication and a lot of team effort behind it, not only from those at Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty, but our affiliates with Sotheby's International Realty, which makes it a true community and effort that way. Mm-hmm. And so we do all these things on the back end that no one really knows is going on. And then on top of that, we take all of these conversations that we have with our advisors and we really try and do our best to make sure their marketing needs for not only themselves and their businesses, but their homes are getting what they want and what they deserve, almost creating their brand within our brand, which gives us that kind of fun aspect that we can kind of work with. And so we create all custom marketing materials for them as well. So they get templated ones, they get custom ones. Yeah. And we're just constantly going, and here we are. And then we have these little conversations, and I have such a collaborative team that it's so fun because we sit down and we go, hey, I had this idea. I heard this advisor talk. What more can we do? And so even when we think we've kind of hit it and we're like, okay, we're giving them a great experience, there's that conversation in the background of how can we do it even better? And so we're just watching all these elements keep us from growing and getting larger in that sense with just our small little team that we're like, hey, let's rock and roll and make this the best experience that these advisors are getting, because it's going to trickle down to the listings, which is going to then go back to our clients. And so then everybody kind of has that really bespoke and white glove service. Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the impression I have too, is really kind of like an in-house agency for approximately 900 clients. You're benefiting the advisors tremendously, but really the advantage for those who are listing with Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty is their properties are getting marketed so well. And there's so many ways that the advisors can be marketing, which is great. And so that makes people feel, I think, very confident about listing with Russ Lyon, because ultimately, you know, your property is going to get a ton of exposure, including a lot of national advertising. Like, you've got relationships with a lot of the national publications that you're putting these properties out in front of as well. And so you've gotten some great results. Tell us more about that. Yeah, we've got absolutely great results. So the fun thing is we have that network. So it all starts here. It's like, how can we do things locally? And so it's like that partnership that we have, that's an awesome way that we can tap into that local market. And then we go, okay, how can we make it a little bit bigger and a little bit better? And we lean into our affiliates and we're like, okay, what can you guys do for us? How can we get our name out there in that way and get this property what it deserves, whether it's that referral or that conversation. And so you really build it that way. And then we start going, okay, so now we've got one state, we've got another state. How can we do national? Yep. So we hit those national publications, whether it's going to be the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. We've got these conversations and these partnerships that are just absolutely stunning, not only for ourselves to be able to call them an actual partner, but see results from that. So we get pickups and publications from them, whether it's a press release we've written, or we have those conversations where they're like, hey, I saw this listing. It came up on my social media. I saw you had it listed. Can I write a story about it? We're like, yes. What do you need from us? Do you need quotes? Do you need photos? How can I help you make not only your job better, but give that love that these properties deserve? And then it doesn't even stop there, which is the crazy part to me and why I love the brand so much too, is we've now hit that national level. So we went one state to another state to that national level. And then we expand that into that global reach where I have friends that I've made through the network that are in Ireland, in India, and in Canada, that we just have these conversations of what's working in your market. What are you seeing? What's your trend? How's your social media even doing? That we can have these outreaches where our properties, they get that love from those affiliates as well. But then we also get that knowledge base, because we all know trends are starting somewhere. Right. Sometimes it starts in the East Coast and it comes to the West Coast. Sometimes it starts in England and it makes it all the way to the US. Wherever it is, there's always a conversation kind of going on in the back end. And we're like, okay, we can feel prepared, which means if we're prepared, we can prepare our advisors. So it's just this constant role of success coming together in a community.
It's awesome. The global reach is really, I think, one of the most important things about Russ Lyon, because if you think about Arizona, people from across the country are moving here. People from around the world are moving here. And how are they learning about all the amazing properties except for that incredible outreach? So that's really cool. When we last had one of our meetings, you were telling me about some incredible accolades that Russ Lyon has been experiencing on a national level, you know, kind of among the affiliates. Will you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I would love to. Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty has always been a powerhouse. Over the years, I've gotten to watch it grow from what sales volume we've been able to bring in just year over year, watching breaking one record to another, and you're just kind of like, wow, this is really great to see for our advisors and our clients and just even the company as a whole. And when you think it can't get any better, Russ Lyon decides to start taking it to the next level, and they're like, okay, this is how we're going to be even better. And so we continue to see our advisors grow in the sense that they are selling like crazy. They're doing great deals, which means we're starting to get national recognition in the ways that we are number one in the state of Arizona for luxury real estate. There are 9 other states where Sotheby's International Realty holds that. And Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty is so unique because we are Arizona. That's it. We have been serving Arizona since 1947. And it's just us here as a Sotheby's International Realty affiliate. Some other states have multiple affiliates that they all then partnered together to get that accolade. And our advisors were able to do that on their own, which is outstanding.
Small but mighty.
Exactly. Small but mighty. And it's really, it's that community. It's like, if you lean into the community, it just keeps growing. It's an abundance mindset. And then we've gotten even statewide recognition from the Phoenix Business Journal. They rank us year over year at different levels of where we're at. That way, we've also been ranked in Real Trends, which is super awesome, allowing us to even be one of the top, anywhere from 5 to top 4 of Sotheby's International Realties just entirely over the country of this is what they're doing and their advisors are able to achieve.
This is such a good story for the newsletter. We're going to literally add this too, because it's really incredible. Like when you talk about, you know, Russ Lyon Sotheby's here in Arizona is nowhere near one of the biggest offices or organizations. And so to achieve those accolades is really great. You know, my experience with the firm is that the agents are very collaborative, and I feel like it comes from the top down that this collaborative spirit has been inspired, for people to work together. And then also one of the things that Mike Belzotti always talks about, working in your area of expertise. I see advisors handing off clients, hey, this is your area of expertise, or I'm not going to work in that because somebody else knows that area of expertise better. And so that collaborative spirit, I feel like many hands make light work, that maybe that's why all the growth has happened, just because people are working together.
No, I would totally agree. And it's funny you say that, because I just reinitiated this idea a couple weeks ago. And I was like, we really need to lean into that idea that we're one is what it is. We are number one in the state of Arizona because we are one team. You always hear about our Flagstaff office or our Camelback Tower office or maybe our Tucson office. And you just hear this office, that office, this office, that office. And it wasn't sitting right with me. And I was like, how do we change this? There's got to be a way that we can do this. And so I actually sat down for a good bit and was like, what makes us different? And I had our videographer create a video that really encompassed all of it. We posted on social media. Our advisors loved it. And it was just really hitting on those key points of, we are one company. We're one community. Mm-hmm. It's one Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty, and it's 13 strategic locations because it's all about those locations. It's those specific areas. Someone in Phoenix isn't going to go sell a home in Flagstaff, but we do have a strategic location placed there with people who are kind of fitting in that specific area, that market, that mindset, that specialty, like you said. It really fits them, but it's all one company. And so it's all kind of, here, this is what we're doing. How can we stand out a little bit different? Well, we can all stand together.
I love that. It's really kind of a culture shift. So I mean, really inspiring that greater, bigger culture. So what do you feel most proud of with the brand? I mean, there's been so many great accolades, and everybody knows that Russ Lyon has got such an amazing reputation. What are you most proud of?
Oh, that's such a tough one. That's such a tough one. Like I said, I bleed blue for Sotheby's International Realty. I do. I think it is one of the best brands, and it's not because of the word luxury or anything specific that way. I think luxury is an experience. It's how you present yourself. If you go buy your clothes off at Ross or offline on Shein and you go and rock that because that's your experience, you're going to look just as luxury as someone who spent $600 on it. And so it's that mindset of, it really is that experience that we're getting. And Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty really stands out a little bit different. And what I can most be proud of is that sense of community, which is what I really wanted to build on with that campaign and that conversation. And it can be seen in every way, shape, and form. Even behind the scenes, we have such a collaboration in the corporate aspect where your marketing team is having daily conversations, sitting together, going, how can we do this better? What do you think about this design? How could I make this experience better? Our accounting department is talking with each other. How can we make it easier for someone to get this paid, or make sure that we're getting them paid on time? Same thing with our IT and marketing. We have these collaborations, and it's how we get all these innovative options. Is there is that sense of community, there's support, there's conversation in those ideas. But then you see it in the offices. And so you can go talk to an office manager and feel like you are the most supported person in the world, even if the idea that you have is totally left field. It's that conversation, it's doing that. And then even going to an advisor and saying, hey, I saw your listing. I have this crazy idea. Can we do it? And once they go, sure, let's do it. And we see it come to life in that way. Or they do the vice versa, and they come to us and they go, this is what I'm thinking. How can we get it done? And we're like, okay, I like where you're going. Let's make a couple changes and really make sure that everyone feels seen and heard, and then we can all be successful in that same way. So the community is absolutely stunning to me. And we've been working on these other videos, and it just keeps ringing in my head right now too, is the amount of advisors that we've asked, if you could put Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty into one word, what would it be? And the amount of times they have said family makes you so proud.
Yeah, that is such a great thing. And especially because it's a family business anyhow. That's
Truly.
the root, that's the roots of the company. So you said something about IT, and I've really got to dive into the topic of the day, which is AI. So you've been a leader in bringing AI into the marketing efforts of the company. What does that look like, and how does that benefit the clients that we serve?
Yeah, AI has been a crazy roller coaster, I think, in every single industry. You kind of saw it coming and you didn't really know how fast it was coming. And then by the time it got there, you were like, whoa, I thought I had a little bit more time to learn about how I could implement this. And so there's been a number of ways that we've been able to take AI and benefit not only our departments and ourselves to kind of streamline a couple of things, which makes it super great because we can focus a little bit more on those other things that make that bespoke moment that we're searching for and we're thriving for with our advisors. We've also taken AI and allowed it to reach into our advisors' pockets in a way that there are certain things that are happening for them because of AI. So we can streamline some things that happen with marketing, with communicating, with doing things like that. For instance, even when we have a new hire come on, we have an AI system that gives them a nice little welcome email and information, and it gives them different information that they can easily search and gravitate towards later so they can feel ready and we can meet them where they are instead of having to wait or hear that they need help. They've got all these resources all at once through like a little AI email. And then their email signature is just automatically done with the information that they provide, and it's clickable, which is crazy. I'm like, I don't know anything about HTML coding, and I probably couldn't do it with my left hand or whatever we wanted to kind of see it in that way. But this AI tool can make it super easy for them. And then it allows our clients to utilize our advisors in a different way because we've now equipped our advisors with more time. And that's always the constraint with AI is how can we get more time to do other things? So the more that we equipped my team to be able to assist our advisors means that the AI can help us. AI can also help our advisors, which means both us and the advisors have a little bit more time, which means those clients who are really searching for something, they now have more of that in-person time where a lot of people, when they hear AI, they're like, there's lack of in-person. I go to McDonald's and I'm ordering by myself and it's like, okay, that might be that industry. But in our industry, it's allowed us to give you back your advisor. You have more time with them. They can now have a whole conversation with you at the house, at a different house, go see a different house, kind of pivot in that way. They don't have to worry about going back and doing their marketing or filling out a request or taking a note because we've equipped them with tools that take that time away, which 5 minutes here and there adds up over time. And you don't realize it until you have all that time back. And so now you can spend that in those clients that you currently have, or even those spheres that you're just not dipping into quite yet, which is where it's fun to see those advisors get that time back. We had a couple that just did a movie event and they thrive that way. It's just how can we get connected with our clients in a different way? But if we didn't give them back time and they had to spend their weekend doing marketing or they had to spend their weekend doing who knows what that we didn't provide them with one of our tools, they wouldn't be having those opportunities and they wouldn't be building those relationships because those relationships are just as important as finding someone their dream home because these homes are absolutely stunning. They most likely will sell themselves, but it's finding those people who belong in those homes and just making sure those people who we are trying to find those homes, we know them enough to go, hey, I have the perfect home for you, instead of just kind of throwing a dart at a dartboard.
Right. Well, and ultimately, the people that are wanting to list homes with you or buy homes through you, it's really important to have that personal touch because everybody wants to be the most important client to their advisor. I want to be the number one client to my advisor. And so empowering them with time is really an important thing. And I think sort of brings the real estate back to real estate in some ways. So so I feel like locally, our community understands very much who Russ Lyon Sotheby's International is. Like from a brand standpoint, why do you think somebody would choose Russ Lyon to represent them in buying or selling a home?
I think that's a great question because there are a couple different answers, actually, surprisingly enough. Sotheby's International Realty has its own brand, its own name. It's the reason we sit here and we tell our advisors, it's not just about you, it's that community. We try and make sure that cultural idea is set from the beginning because that blue sign is everywhere. It's going to be in a backyard or a front yard of a home in Florida. It's going to be in California, Arizona, Paris, Italy, Canada,
Dubai.
Dubai, you name it, it's going to be there. The Sotheby's International Realty in that blue stands out on its own. So it's okay. Lean into that a little bit more. Where Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty locally stands out differently is it still has that community aspect, but we have those specialties inside of each one of our advisors. You always have one that knows a little bit more about new builds. One might know a little bit more about that golf community and what's going on there. They might have that pocket listing that they're like, hey, I know exactly which advisor inside of my office had a client that fit this description because they communicate. And so it leans back into that community of they're talking, they hang out together. It's great. We have these events. We had a sip and style. We brought in a stylist that talked about clothes, and we just kind of all hung out, but they're in this community, in this center where they're talking, they're having those conversations. So they truly are doing you a favor by being so involved and networking. So they're helping themselves, helping their business in that way, but they're ultimately helping our clients. And then they're so involved in our community too. So they know what's going on. It's fun to sit here and listen to them talk about what events are going on, what events they want to be involved with, even things that don't have anything to do with real estate, because they know where all of these things are. So listing your home with Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty gives you an advantage of an advisor who is not only going to give you that local reach, they're going to give you that national reach, that global reach, but they're also going to be able to talk about your home in ways you might not have even thought of telling them yet. Because you know your home better than anyone else, but these advisors are so elegant in the way that they do their home research that they become true experts, where they know your neighborhood, they know the community events, they know what schools are around there, and they can tout that in a way that drives those buyers back into that neighborhood. But also they might have that buyer through that sphere that they have and those connections, those relationships. They might know that someone has a kid that they want to go to that high school. And that's the easiest way for them to be like, hey, I have the perfect home for you. It's down the street from the high school you want your kids to go to. Let's go check it out.
Yeah, it's awesome. Back to the whole thing with community. So when you take a look at all the great success that has been had over the last several years, what's next for Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty?
The moon. I don't know. I always like to say, I'm like, onward and up is a great phrase that I hear a lot of our leadership team actually say. It's so like anytime we hit a bump in the road, we had the NAR settlement, we've got conversation coming from all of the exclusive listings that are with other brokerages. Those conversations, they're things that our advisors are hearing, we're hearing, our clients are hearing. So every time we hit a bump in the road, we've always got someone in leadership that's just sitting there super proud, super happy to be there, but so confident that it's always going to be onward and up. And so it's always that next, how can we do better? What can we do bigger? I would like to say everything and anything is what we're going to do. If it means expanding, I'm excited. Let's do it. Let's open another office. Let's get more advisors inside of here so they can get that feeling of that bespoke moment that we're looking to give all our advisors. And same with our clients, because everyone that we're in the community with currently, they're going to be a buyer. They're going to be a seller. They deserve to have that feel good feeling inside of them too. So it's like, how can we reach more people? Does it mean that we're going to do more marketing? Maybe. Does it mean we're going to have more AI tools? Possibly. IT wise, we're like, how can we make this bigger and better than anything else? Expanding on our magazine might be a thing. There's all these opportunities where I don't have an answer right now. I just see that it's going to be bigger and greater things for everyone, starting with our clients, moving to our advisors, and then moving to Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty as a whole.
I love that. And so it's really all about growth and just the unlimited possibilities. Well, this has been awesome. I'm so glad that you are on your own podcast this time. This has been super fun to hear from you, and you did a great job.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on it.
Yeah. Well, excited to have Barry Van Patten II with us here today from Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty. You've been an advisor for how long?
Oh, great question. 14 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. How did you get into real estate?
It's a funny story, actually. So I'm a native here and grew up here, and both sets of grandparents lived here as well. And so kind of growing up, I saw the valley change. I mean,
so much.
Oh, so much. I mean, it's just been wild. And you know, my one set of grandparents lived on the backside of Camelback Mountains, kind of looked over, you know, Sky Harbor and all the city lights and stuff. And I just really remember from a young age just understanding what a good piece of property can do for a family unit and the memories that it brings and all that. And so, I ended up becoming a college soccer coach and coaching, but I always just had an eye. I just love real estate. And so the funny part about it is in 2002, I went to my father and I said, hey, I think we should get into real estate. And he kind of looked at me sideways, just like, what are you talking about? I've been in the fitness business for 35 years. And so, but fast forward, so it didn't work out. I went into coaching. Fast forward 4 years, my dad comes to us and he goes, hey, just so you know, I'm going to get into real estate. And so,
good idea, Dad.
Yeah. So of course, that's when everything was kind of starting to tip down. And, but yeah, good idea, Dad. I'm glad I planted the seed for him. But he started right away, did really well, partnered with Tom McCarty, did phenomenal, his business.
Well, now we know how he
background.
got off to such a great start. Tom's an amazing salesperson.
Yes, amazing salesperson. And that was my dad's background with sales as well. So for me, it didn't work out timing wise with my wife and wanting to, have kids and whatnot. But I just kind of would hang out with him every now and then and watch what he did with the business. And eventually I'll get into that. And so when the market kind of started creeping back, we had 2 children at the time. I was like, yeah, it's time for me to go. So that's kind of the start.
And did you get into business with your dad and Tom at the time?
No.
Or started on your own?
Nope, started on my own. I think he wanted me to earn it on my own and not, be a part of what they were doing, which was, Wall Street Journal, top realtor and all that fun stuff. But it was good to see from afar kind of what he would do. And of course he would help me with anything, but I wasn't a part of their group when I started. And so I had to figure it out on my own. I had some great people that would mentor me, but.
Well, I like how you started this off talking about that you early on realized the value of good property. And so a lot of the things that you sell today are homes with really a lot of those same great views. So the home that you're talking about on the backside of Camelback Mountain, now you're doing a lot in North Scottsdale, Silverleaf, and some of those areas where it seems like there isn't a single house that doesn't have an amazing view. How's it been, sharing those properties with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, I think I can understand for sure what clients are looking for if they're on the buy side to do it, and then also understand the flip side of it is the sales side, just to be able to tour home or prospective buyers come in and point out the little details that maybe some people, if they didn't have that upbringing, they might just be winging it. But just mainly I would say to be able to be lucky enough to kind of grow up with grandparents who owned a view property, I definitely think that helps my perspective of understanding what that can bring to a family unit.
Yep. And what I'm definitely hearing you say is that understanding quality materials is really important too. So you can point out to a buyer, why is this house priced the way it is? It's because it's got, very exquisite stone or very high-end cabinets or things like that. So certainly one of the properties that you're getting ready to list here pretty soon has a lot of those qualities. You want to tell us about that one?
Yeah. So so we helped these clients buy it a couple of years ago, and the people that were selling it were going to move into it. They built it for themselves, but then decided they were from Montana that they didn't want to come down here, and so our clients were the lucky buyers of this just beautiful house that Fred and Tony built, and the amount of detail that went into that house. I mean, we've had broker opens and people through it, and I've heard agents say this is the most beautiful house that I've ever seen. And so it is. It's just the amount of detail in the house, the ceiling detail, the master bedroom. I mean, I can go on and on about how special it is, but it's a view property, and it definitely is a memory maker for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Fred and Tony Luxury Homes, they do amazing homes. They really, just like you said, incredible details and great quality. So the fact that you have a chance to represent this particular home, what do you think buyers are responding to the most? So when you take buyers up into Silverleaf, I would imagine, they've got certain things they're looking for. What are they looking for and what are they responding to?
Yeah, I'd say some of the similar things I've said where, a lot of them are wanting to have an environment that is going to provide them memories. I mean, some of it is for sure the details or the cabinetry or the ceiling detail and all the things that go into that. But when you think about that, that's really so that they can make memories with their family. Mm-hmm. And so, I think serenity a little bit. A lot of people think about lot sizes and not being too close to the neighbor. But at the end of the day, I think for most people, it comes down to memories. What memories can I create while I'm out by the pool? What memories can I create while I'm barbecuing with the sunset, or the twinkling lights? And so, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and definitely, you know, the chance to entertain up there is wonderful too. You know, it's so beautiful, and it is quiet. Even with all the houses that are in Silverleaf, it still is a very quiet community because it's tucked back into the hills. What do you like most about that community?
I've always been a sucker for just, you know, because I think my formative years were kind of going up on a mountain, but it's quiet. It's a little cooler up there, a little bit more quiet. You know, when the breeze picks up, you know, it just feels like you're almost in kind of more in nature than when you're on the valley floor, and there's a little serenity that comes with that.
So when you're working with different people who are buyers that are looking for a location up in North Scottsdale, be it Silverleaf or some of the, you know, one of the many country clubs that are up there, do you feel like people are leaning towards wanting to live in a country club environment more with that privacy? Are they looking for the flexibility of living in not a master plan community where they've got building? What are you noticing?
Both. I mean, yeah, through COVID, I'd say maybe a little bit more. I mean, it was probably a mix, but there's a lot of people that maybe came from California or came from New York or Chicago, and they just wanted a little bit more space. So there's been a lot of clients that we've had that just want more space, separation from their neighbors. But, you know, there's always people that love, you know, a place like Silverleaf or DC Ranch or Mirabel where they have community, you know, because they're moving from a different state. And so how can they make instant friends? Well, they can make instant friends by joining a community, for there being a clubhouse, for being, you know, on a golf course. And so
that's a great point. Instant friends. That's actually a great thing. So on the flip side of all this, there are the people that want to sell their houses. So when you're working with sellers, what are you advising? What's some of your best advice for them today?
I'd say the best advice, no matter what, with a seller is to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. You know, because sellers, of course, they've lived in the house and they've created memories, so their opinion of the house is going to be greater than the buyer. You know, but you know, if you overprice a property, it's just like overpricing a Gatorade or, you know, something else. Like, people won't buy it; they'll go buy the Gatorade at the next place. And it's the same thing with a house, even if it's a luxury house, you know, or $20 million house or $10 million house or $5 million house. If it's overpriced, then it's not going to sell. And so, you know, so that's just being realistic about, and it might be a beautiful house, but maybe it's missing a couple garages for the size house it is, or, you know, maybe it's missing the extra living space that it probably should have been built with that the couple's going to need. And so when those things are missing, you have to kind of adjust a little bit, potentially in price. So
well, and you've had a lot of great training from Mike Belzotti, who loves to talk about competitive positioning of a house.
Yes.
And so he claims that if you price it right in the beginning, you don't lose time and you don't miss out on buyers. And so I'm sure that's some of your advice to your clients right off the bat, is just to be very competitively positioned.
Yeah, you want to be competitively positioned. Yeah, and of course there's always market things that happen, stock market, you know, drops or tariffs or, you know, whatever it is that you can't predict. But if you're in a range of competitive pricing, that's the best way to price.
Yeah, ultimately every single house sells. It's just for what, right?
Correct. And how long did it take to get there?
And how long did it take to get there? So when people are moving here from out of state, what do you tell them that you love about Arizona?
Oh, well, the diversity, I mean, really the diversity of just the different areas, really. I mean, because you can be 2 hours away and you're in Flagstaff. And so a lot of people don't understand when they're moving to Arizona. And some people do because they've been here before, but they don't understand that 2 hours away in Flagstaff, you can have a second home. Yeah. You know, a beautiful second home in Pine Canyon or Flagstaff Ranch, or even out by Snowbowl and have some acreage. And it's the biggest stand of ponderosa pines in the whole world. You know, and then Sedona. I mean, personally, that's what I love the most about Arizona. You know, in regards to Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, I just think the newness of the infrastructure. I mean, we had a client once come from California, and I picked him up at Four Seasons, and the first thing he said to me, this is during COVID, he says, "I got to tell you, Barry, I'm amazed at how clean the streets and the highways are here." And there's that, you know, just how clean it is. You know, we take care of the city, and and people love it.
And we've had so much growth that's one of the reasons why we have so many things that are so new. But we've got such amazing people that are moving here too, that are kind of, you know, helping us fill in that infrastructure. So if somebody was thinking about moving to Arizona today, what advice would you give them?
I would definitely say, you know, make sure that you take in opinions if you know people that are already living here of what they are, but don't base your final decision on whatever that is. You know, find a competent and successful realtor that's been in the business for a long time and isn't just gonna, you know, somebody that's not gonna just try and sell you on something so that they can make a commission, because that happens, unfortunately, but somebody that's been here, has a good track record, has testimonials of that they'll understand that the agent is looking out for the best interest of the client, because unfortunately that's not always the case. I think most people want to do good, but yeah, I think that is the most. And then just do your diligence. Even if you think you want to be in Silverleaf, go look at Mirabel and go look at DC Ranch and, you know, go look in Paradise Valley just to make sure that that's what you want.
Mm-hmm. And you want to work with an advisor who knows the whole area, who can tell you the good, bad, and the ugly about each different area.
I think it's important for sure.
Yeah, and every area has its own specific things too. So I know a lot at Russ Lyon Sotheby's International. We also talk a lot about having a market expertise. So obviously if somebody wants to live down in Southern Arizona, you're probably going to call one of your associates and have them sort of work with those people. So I think there's a really nice line of integrity that comes with, you know, wanting to work with people who are experts. So what kind of people do you want to come to you?
In regards to buyers or sellers, you're talking? Anybody. I mean, we're here to serve people. And so whatever that means, and we've sold from $100,000 condos all the way up to, you know, $20+ million homes. And so we just want to be we just want to be a servant, and we want to provide, you know, good in somebody's life. You know, we want to make it a pleasant experience, whether it's buying and selling. And, you know, we just want to be able to educate and then help them through the process and make it as seamless as possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Barry.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me today. We so appreciate you taking the time to join us. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you are alerted to never miss an episode. And if you'd like to join our VIP list to receive our Iconic Estates newsletter, please go to russlyon.com, or you'll find the link in the show notes. I'd be so grateful if you'd take the time to rate and review this podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback. Until next time, I'm Renee Dee. Thanks for joining us.